slime bag! What's your problem, bro? We're trying to have a good time. Nope. Who the hell are you? What the hell? To the circus.
What's going on, guys and gals, and welcome to Good Real Hunting. We're up for the good real, so you don't have to. It's your boy Brad. The Brett Man is right over there. Today, we have a very special review for you, ladies and gents. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I think it's one of Brett's favorite movies of all time. Favorite horror movies of all time. At least in that circulation, man. It's one we've been putting off from doing. But we said, you know what? We did the Halloween franchise. We did all that. Let's continue that momentum. Let's do some fun-ass movies. And here we are today. We're going to be talking The Shining from 1980. Classic Stanley Kubrick flick. Freaking pulled from, of course, Stephen King's novel. But some things were changed. Either way, Birdie, this is one we've been waiting to talk about for some freaking time.
Dude, absolutely isn't. Before we even continue even further, we gotta, of course, thank our lovely Patreons, or as we call them, our Real Hunters. So let's give them a shout out real quick. Thank you, Real Hunters, for being the backbone of Good Real Hunting. And if you want to join the Real Hunter family today, the Patreon link is in the description down below. So yes, The Shining, man, dude, first off, the real March Madness, when we did that 80s tournament, it freaking won. It had a very difficult road, but you know, it beat some notable opponents. So I'm excited to talk about this. I'm excited to even I did the rewatch for it just to prepare for this review, and I'm actually really damn excited because I just forgot, after knowing about film as like over the past couple of years, I forgot how damn good this is. Not good, great.
Right, dude, it's one of those movies that, to me, gets better every time you watch it. Every time you watch it, you learn something new. You pick up on something different. It intrigues you just as much. Every time you watch it, you're just as intrigued. I watched it twice, actually, for this. I watched it once with a commentary, and I was like, you know what? I didn't get my Shining fix in, so I had to go back and watch it again without the commentary on, because I didn't want people talking on the movie, because I wanted to soak it in. So, yeah, man, it's one of those. It's a very special movie in the history of the cinema world, I should say.
Yeah, because you got that freaking poster right behind you, dude. Like, look at freaking Jack Torrance back there. So, man, are you ready just to get into some movie facts and some Rotten Tomato reviews? Yeah, we're going to bring something new to the movie reviews of how we present to you all.
Yes, dude, tell us about it.
The Shining came out on June the 13th of 1980 with an extremely high 8.4 out of 10 on the IMDb, where the Letterboxd of 4.3 out of 5, where most of the folks come in out of 5 out of 5. Fantastic. The tomato meter is an 82% certified fresh and a 93% from the audience, with a budget which is high for the starting of the 80s, very high budget of $19 million. At the box office, with the domestic, made $46 million and the global $47, because we were at the time where just the films didn't hardly leave the US. But I bet if you freaking release The Shining in today's era, that number would go way, way up. And the director is by Stanley Kubrick. And the cast, we got Jack Nicholson, the lovely Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, which funny thing that I noticed on this latest rewatch, and of course, Scatman Crothers
as Dick. So yeah,
we love Dick. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. So,
yeah, we do. Dick's a good guy, though. So yeah, man, I think, we're about to see some of these Rotten Tomatoes reviews here in a second. Some of the critics were put off by the fact that it's so different from the movie. I think that's kind of the consensus I saw, or from the book. I'm sorry. That's the consensus I saw when looking at the negative reviews. There's only a few of them. It's not like it's a ridiculous amount of negative reviews, but I would expect this to be a little higher. The the budget is a lot for that time in the 80s, in 1980, man. That's a lot of money. So that's good to see. But yeah, I'm not surprised. It made a lot of money. I am surprised it didn't get a more global release, because it was filmed in England. So that's a little interesting. So, but other than that, man, everything else, yeah, man, it's looking good, man. I agree with most of this stuff. The audience loves it.
Absolutely. Of course, the new thing I'm adding to this movie fact card is if you want to check out The Shining, if for some reason you've never seen it before, it is available on HBO Max. So, Brad, we're going to introduce this new segment to now. We're going to be doing some Rotten Tomato critic reviews. We're going to take what me and Brad found like the best critic review out there, and then we're also going to look for the one of the worst critic reviews out there, if you can believe it or not. So, Brad, I'll just let you freaking get these squared away right now.
Yeah, it's kind of a segment of our old Rotten reactions that we were doing. And yeah, so I pulled this one. It's a fresh one from Brian Gill. And this is just what I was saying earlier. Each viewing reestablishes The Shining as one of the greatest horror movies of all time. From Mad About Movies podcast here, Brian Gill. I couldn't agree more. I think, again, every time I watched it, I appreciate it more. And, you know, we did our top 10 horror movies the other day, and I picked the Halloween over The Shining, and I said I could swap. You know, it could probably swap. You know, given the experience, the mood I'm in, I guess. And you know, yeah, after watching The Shining again, I probably would put this at number one over Halloween right now. It's a battle that goes back and forth, but man, this is a much more complex movie, a lot more going on, and yeah, every viewing you're like, man, you're blown away by it.
Blown away, as you always like to say.
Blown away.
So let's freaking get my comment up here. Well, I thought was the best, very fresh review by Matthew Rosa of Salon.com. He's a top critic, by the way. He says that the classic Stanley Kubrick film isn't just scary, it is also its own odd way, defined by a hopeful perspective on life and death. Yeah, absolutely it does, because we get to see like the afterlife, you know, with some of the ghosts, or just what we perceive as ghosts in The Shining. And then, of course, we get the life with the Torrance family. And yeah, so I absolutely agree with freaking Matthew on this.
Yeah, and you know what? Kubrick even told King when he read the book and he was going to do the movie, he said, "King, this is kind of a positive story because you're providing that you're providing the idea that there is an afterlife, essentially." And I think Kubrick did some things to kind of make it a little bit more darker. But yeah, that's an interesting. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you could believe it or not, we even found some people who find this movie rotten. So, Brad, take it away.
Rob Though, which needs to do exactly what his picture here says and put some soap in his damn mouth after saying this, from Flipside Movie Emporium, said the trappings are brilliant, but Kubrick ultimately loses the essence of the source material, and he's too good to expect anything less. And I say, yeah, maybe he didn't follow the source material verbatim. He did his own thing. And I think he honestly maybe made a better story than than the source material. There's some things I like better about the book. You know, Jack's more developed. Jack's got more of an arc, you could say, a negative arc, you could say, more of a fall. But this story that Kubrick provided is a darker story. It's about a man who's so freaking he's already so detached from his family. The hotel just puts him over the edge. And yeah, there's a lot of good things that he put into it. I think the biggest thing, the reason I pulled this up is because in order to really appreciate this movie, you do need to detach it from the source material. If you're a big fan of the book, you need to detach it, because I like them both, but you got to appreciate them for what they both are, because they are different.
Oh, absolutely. Just a notice on your thing right here. The original score 2 out of 5. It can't be that Ron wins almost half of 5.
That's right, dude.
What a little idiot. And dude, I found a freaking idiot right here. And Jay Scott from Globe and Mail, he's a top critic. I have no idea how. And this is a newly freshened review a couple of months ago. So this is what I found very interesting. But he says Kubrick sabotages his own thesis in the most knuckleheaded way conceivable. Inconceivable. But anyways, we can't be charged as accomplices in horror when there is no horror. Are you fucking kidding me? What the fuck movie was he been watching?
He must have watched the miniseries.
Dude, I guess so. Or like freaking the Treehouse of Horrors episode when the Simpsons freaking did the Shining reference, and Homer goes, "Here's Homer." No, it don't. But speaking of dope, what a dope by Jay Scott. That's the stupidest like freaking review, a critic review I have ever seen in a horror movie. A horror movie.
Yeah, honestly, I think if you can't see the horror in this movie, there's something wrong with you. It's not on the screen. A lot of it's not on the screen. You know, it's all psychological. It's all stuff that just makes you feel uncomfortable. It's stuff that's like, man, it's the isolation. It's all that stuff. And yeah, man, it's full of horror, man. It's one of the scariest psychological movies ever made.
Yeah, such a rookie, freaking Jay Scott. Hopefully, we never see you again. But anyways, Brad, you ready to dive into this? We're finally here.
Let's dive in.
All right, freaking dive in with the amazing opening, where we get the beautiful cinematography. Just showing us kind of like the landscape of what we're about to experience for these next 2.5 hours, or probably I was like 2 hours and 15 minutes, really, if we're just playing by real numbers. But dude, I just have my first note: love the cinematography, but more than anything, and this is what I've noticed on my latest rewatch, the freaking score is perfection if I ever heard one in a horror movie.
Except the damn Georgia Bulldogs play it. Their band does.
But anyways,
Yeah, dude, let's dive in with the drive-in, man. This is the drive-in to the Overlook. Essentially, is what we're doing here. It opens up with these wide helicopter shots of the landscape in Colorado, and it is marvelous. The cinematography is fantastic. Like you said, the score, all that's great. What I really like here is it establishes already from the opening shot the isolation that our characters are going to be going into here in just a little bit, because it's this long, dreadful drive out here that on these treacherous roads. Right now there's no snow, it's all just open, but it's treacherous roads out on these big kind of cliffs and all these mountainous landscapes and everything like that. It's setting that dread up. It's doing that really effectively. Nothing's even been said yet. It's all cinematography. It's all a story that it's telling right there. And I also like the way it just feels eerie, that a sense of dread also takes over at this point, especially on rewatch, when you can kind of see that trail to the mountain. And I saw somewhere, I've seen a lot of behind the scenes kind of videos on The Shining. I can't remember exactly who said this or where it came from, but it's also kind of like there's already this larger than life presence kind of looking over Jack Torrance on his way in, is kind of the vibe that it gives you. And it's interesting, and I like it, man. And it's epic. And yeah, dude, it's one of my favorite. It's such a good opening, dude.
oh, dude, such an amazing opening. One of the best openings in the horror genre. And then we freaking get to, and this is what I like about this movie too, especially for us movie reviewers. We love when movies do this so we can make notes. Freaking like chapters within this movie. I thought that was a very nice touch to it. So let's freaking dive into the interview, which that is where Jack Torrance, who is played by the amazing Jack Nicholson, is freaking getting interviewed to be the caretaker. I'm the caretaker for the freaking Overlook Hotel, man. It's that he has two good hands because, he's a writer and all that. He just wanted to find an isolated place where he can, freaking just find within himself the writer that he used to be and bear an isolated place in the Overlook Hotel, man.
Yeah, dude, it's a good sequence. You see Jack, who just drove in. He's just getting here. He's getting his interview in by Mr. Ullman. Stuart Ullman there, in this nice kind of like pink, reddish, almost sinister looking room. The room is perfectly symmetrical, and already it's kind of dealing with this. I don't know, man. It's just a great moment of dialogue. With these two characters kind of talking. It's kind of slow paced, but it's like they're talking. Mr. Ullman tells them the story about the previous caretaker here that chopped up his family because of the cabin fever that he had and all that stuff. And Jack's like, well, whatever, it's fine. My wife's kind of a horror movie fanatic anyway, so a confirmed ghost story enthusiast. So he has no concerns about it. He's not worried about it. I don't know if he told her or not, but all that stuff's really good. I enjoy that. It kind of cuts back to where Wendy's back at the apartment with Danny, which Wendy's his wife, and then Danny the son. They're hanging out. It's cool. We get the first kind of introduction to Tony, who's the finger friend that Danny's got, and he's like, that's cool. And Wendy's like, hey man, do you think he's gonna get the job? And Danny's like, yeah, he's already got it. And we get the phone call a minute later saying that he did get the job. So that was all kind of cool and creepy, man.
Yeah, dude, all that's great. And of course, Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall, the beautiful Shelley Duvall, which everybody knows the story that she went through absolute hell on this set, and just to freaking just push it into the movie that we got. To me, I will keep going as this movie progresses. That Shelley Duvall was almost to me the MVP of this movie.
Dude, yeah, she did, man. And she was very from the beginning, from this opening scene with her, she's captivating, and she's not like your typical, like movie star or anything like that either. She seems like a real person. She's realistic.
Mhm.
And yeah, her performance throughout the movie was really, yeah, I mean, you could tell that she was terrified because of what she went through. And it sucks that she did go through that. And I wouldn't condone it. I think in today's, methods of acting, it would never be allowed, but it did turn
No.
out well. I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's just like freaking don't feed cheese sandwiches to Jack Nicholson on set too, because he absolutely hates cheese sandwiches, and that's how they got him agitated for this role of Jack Torrance in the scenes where he gets agitated. So that's how they did that. And lastly, of course, I'd need to know about how Shelley Duvall is able to keep that ash from the cigarette from not falling off. Like, did you see how long that thing got?
She's the pro, man. She's the goat of six, man. That's what it is, man. She knows what she's doing. But yeah, so all that stuff's good though. When it does back, she is smoking. She has that long monologue. She's talking to the doctor because Danny had a freak out a minute ago because Tony's like showing him all these visions of the hotel. Once Tony was able to confirm, in fact, Jack got the job and said, "Hey, yeah, you're going there. Get ready, bucko, because you're going to have a good ride." He's like, "You don't want to go there at the same time because these elevators are overflowing with blood. There's all kinds of crazy shit." So he kind of goes in this trance. They call the doctor in. Wendy's then talking to the doctor, and she's all like, "Yeah, this is where we learned that Jack's past, that, he used to be an alcoholic like 4 months ago. And that, he broke Danny's arm once out of anger because there was papers, all over the floor and stuff like that. It was accidental, but he was still, it was because he was drunk and whatnot. And yeah, so that's interesting. That sets up that past. It sets that up. It sets up the relationship that they have. And yeah, I mean, you got to wonder if it's already like an abusive relationship at this point, just looking at her, the way she's kind of justifying his actions on his behalf, and the way that, she's just, forgiven that and ready to move on, and, all, hunky-dory that he's, he's sober now. So, it's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting too. And then just want to throw a quick note out there about our Danny, Danny Torrance, played by Danny Lloyd. Actually, I was really impressed because you know how kid actors are either a complete, like they nailed it, or they're just a bit outside. Danny freaking nailed it out of the park with his performance in this movie. I thought he did a spectacular job as a kid actor.
I did. And you know what? A fun fact about Danny is this production, this filming took so long. I think it was over a year, which is ridiculous because of how many takes that Kubrick would do and everything. Danny actually aged during that production. And so they had to kind of work that in. There's scenes where he looks older than he was in other scenes because it took so long to film. And you're at that age where you just sprout up like a freaking, tea sprout, whatever the fuck that is.
What the hell was a tea sprout?
I don't know, dude.
Oh man, that's hilarious, though. Freaking tea sprout. But anyways, we're gonna go from a tea sprout to the closing. The freaking closing, where we're sealing the deal that it's official that the Torrance are on their way to the Overlook Hotel, and Danny's complaining about how he's hungry, about how he didn't eat his bologna sandwich. But you know what? I don't blame Danny. He wants to eat a bologna sandwich on a freaking long ass trip, So I don't blame freaking Danny for that.
I don't either, man. And I like this a lot too. Because it's already showing this division that Jack has with his family. He's already detached from his family. And we see this is kind of the first clue. And then we see that many more times before he falls off the wagon. And this is where it differs from the book, because in the book, he's legitimately trying to be a family man. He's doing the sober thing to better his family. At this point, he already seems agitated that he's having to do that. There's already a wedge between him and Wendy and Danny. And you can see that when he's like, "Oh yeah, it's okay. He saw it on the television." Like in his eyes, it almost looks like he's blaming Wendy for that. You know what I mean? And it's just like this ongoing thing. And it starts here. And yeah, I mean, you can already see this family's on the verge of a fallout, at the end of the day. And, this hotel that they're going to, this presence they're going to, really is going to prey on the weak here in this version of the story and finish the job. And yeah, it's a great moment to see them together.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we continue further, because I keep seeing this negative review about this movie from some of its fans, that Jack Nicholson looked freaking crazy before he went crazy. Did you have an issue with that?
No, again, that I did initially. Yes, the first few times, because it was so different. It was drastic change from the book. But then once you separate the two, no, I don't, because I think that's what the point was. I think it is. A guy that's on the verge. He's been sober for 4 months. Like I said, he's pissed about it. He's already angry that he can't drink anymore. He's angry that he's almost like he despises having this family already at this point because they're holding him back. They're holding him back from drinking like he wants to. They're holding him back professionally, all that stuff. And that's what the point of this movie is. You know what I mean?
No, dude, that's perfectly said. I didn't really think about that before, of like how he kind of it's almost like at that breaking point because of all that. So, freaking excellent point. So, it never bothered me because a great performance is a great performance regardless, no matter what he looks like at the beginning.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
Yes, sir. So they arrive there. They get reacquainted with everything. Jack's getting showed around like about his responsibilities. Wendy's taking a look all around the hotel. Trying to get herself acquainted. If they freaking get Danny Boy getting offered some freaking ice cream from one of our boy Dick. So what about that scene? Because that's a very important scene in this movie for as little as they give us about this thing called The Shining.
It is, man. I like a lot of this scene where they do show up. They get the tour of the Overlook, and there's a little bit of a sense of security there at that point because there's still people there. But we know they're all going to be leaving by 5 o'clock this day, and they're going to be all alone. And I like that the way they're walking around the hotel, and it feels safe right now. There's nothing going on. There's nothing crazy. But especially when you go back on rewatch, knowing what you see how it all turns out. You get a really eerie feeling going through this hotel for the first time, especially you go into the Colorado Lounge, which is where Jack types his novel and stuff like that. Like you walk through there's a nice tracking shot where they go through and it follows the whole family as they walk through there. And it's just like, dude, knowing what we know, what's going to happen in this room later. It's a really eerie feeling. And yeah, so they get the tour. They go down to the kitchen. Dick, we get introduced to Dick, like you said. He starts to offer an ice cream to Danny in some ways that are untraditional ways of offering ice cream to people. He does it 100% via his mind. And then he goes on to tell us that of course, him and Danny eat ice cream together while the rest go finish the tour or whatever. And he's all like, yeah, man, my grandma and I used to have conversations entirely in our mind and all that stuff. We call it The Shining. And he tells Danny a little bit about it. And how it works and whatnot, and how this hotel shines, and how this hotel is going to show you things, and all this stuff like that. Burnt toast is what he calls it, remnants of other issues. So yeah, that really sets up the whole crux of the story, The Shining here. I don't think it doesn't lean as much into that as it does in the novel, but again, it's not really what this movie's about. So
exactly.
Yeah, it's a good scene. It's a good scene.
Yeah, exactly. You spot on that one. I didn't need The Shining in this particular movie because, like you said, this is not what this particular movie is about. So when they did Doctor Sleep, which trust me, Doctor Sleep is coming. When they go in, that's the movie you go in more depth into the aura that is The Shining. So I thought that was a great move by Stanley Kubrick to not go as in detail with The Shining. Just give us little bits and pieces of it, so it kind of like plays with our mind of what we interpret as what The Shining is. So I thought that was an excellent move, just by that particular part of direction.
I agree, man. The Shining is an interesting concept and everything, but dude, the story that he gave us with this isolation is great. And while while all this is going on, they're getting introduced with the hotel. Danny's in the playroom. He sees the twins for the first time, the two twin girls, the infamous scene that we'll later see with them in the hallway.
And twins
with the twins.
He sees them for the first time, and it's just it's a creepy scene. That's really the one thing. And we also learn at this point, Ullman tells him that this is on a Indian burial ground at this point. So that's interesting. A lot of death, a lot of dismay here already in the hotel, the way it was built and everything like that. So a lot of negativity established with this place right out the gate. And so that's cool. That's the biggest things we learned during all that, I believe. But yeah, man, it was all important stuff. But eventually everybody leaves and the family's left by themselves.
And why is it always an Indian burial ground? Why can't it be a clown burial ground? Like, why does it always have to be that way?
I think that might have been the case in It, though. I think that was the story that was told there.
Oh my goodness! So yeah,
we found out also too that there's no booze on the premises here as well, which is important. They take it all with them. There's nothing, and Jack's like, "Oh, I don't need it. I've been sober for 5 months." But we'll find out later if he actually needed it or not.
Oh yeah, or if he actually drinks some. But well, yeah, like you said, we'll get to it because everybody leaves, and now we get to the next chapter a month later, and we're checking on the Torrance family, and seems everything they're doing pretty solid for their first month there. Nothing too bad. We get this amazing camera shot of like Danny riding around on his freaking trikey. And all that. I do love the camera shot of how we're following Danny through some of those scenes.
Dude, the sound design too, man. That's the biggest thing to me is hearing those wheels going on the carpet, on the hardwood, on the wheel, like, and it tracking him around this hotel. It's creepy, and it does this 3 times, I think, before it actually shows the scare with the twins here in a little bit. So it builds that tension up each and every time he does that, even if you know what's coming, because everybody has seen that scene at least at some point. If you've seen Twister, you've seen this scene because it shows up in Twister while they're at the drive-in. But yeah, it's creepy. It's weird. It's, the sound design's crazy. One thing I did want to point out, I meant to mention a minute ago, and I'm a little bit behind, but that's okay. But when they were doing that ice cream conversation with Dick a minute ago, before everybody left and Dick and Danny were talking, that scene, they did 148 takes of that scene. I think the most we've ever done in a skit's like 2 or 3, maybe 4. But I just, and a lot of scenes in this movie are like that way. I just had the numbers for that, so I wanted to go back and point that out. But there's a lot of scenes.
It's written in
like
my
that.
contract that we never do that many takes. It's 10 max. That's written in my contract. We do it in 10 or we don't use it at all.
Yeah, exactly, dude. 10 is the limit, man. You better do something with that. One other thing I didn't mention in that same scene, though, I don't know how I got ahead of myself, but when Danny and Dick are talking, the room 237 comes up, and Danny's like, because he saw the premonition of the room, he's like, "What's going on in that room?" And Dick's like, "Nothing, dude. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Just don't go in there. Stay out." But that'll come back later. Back up to speed. They're alone. Danny's riding around. Take it away, my friend.
Yeah, they're doing all that, and then Wendy is serving Jack breakfast at 11:30. Who the fuck serves breakfast at 11:30?
Hell of a spread, though.
Yeah,
Bacon,
it was
eggs.
a nice spread. I will give it that. Wendy could cook her ass off too. I bet she uses her favorite seasoning as ash seasoning. If you catch my drift right there. But no, we had that. Jack talks about like having deja vu, which I picked it up on this recent rewatch. That plays a heavy factor as we go progress in this movie, and I was like, oh shit! So I thought that was kind of cool. And then the last note I have is again beautiful cinematography camera shot where Wendy and Danny go through the maze, and we get like kind of like on top of it where they're moving around. Dude, beautiful.
And I'll tell you some more good cinematography is that same breakfast scene when she comes in with that spread with the bacon, he's dipping it in there. Most of that scene is taking place. It's shot through the mirror looking at Jack, which is, to me, I've read a few different things on this. It's a really good scene. Obviously, there's a lot of duality themes in this movie. Everything in the hotel has been perfectly symmetrical. And that's just a testament to Kubrick's filmmaking, his cinematography from the beginning. He likes symmetrical shots. You can see that throughout. But also this mirror shot, man, it's telling us a lot of things. It's saying, there's 2 sides of Jack Torrance here, man. There's the evil side and there's the good side. Which one's going to prevail? It's also kind of giving you that distance. Again, another clue, that wedge that he has with Wendy. He's kind of, it kind of shows that, he's in 2 different places with that. So I think that's kind of cool as well. And really, dude, just in general, mirrors are a big presence in this movie, and it starts right here. I read, and I don't know what the reasoning is, that it hasn't been confirmed because a lot of things hasn't, but there's every time Jack sees a ghost in this movie, there's a mirror in the scene. And I thought that was kind of cool and intriguing. So there's speculation as to what it means, but I don't know. There's a lot of things in this movie that are never going to get answered. But yeah, this is the first time.
Kind of like in a way, like Jack is looking into himself through the mirror, and he's just imagining those people, or it's like I know, like for us it goes, but yeah, you're kind of playing a nice little idea that he's really like looking within himself, or like the past self, because again, it plays later on into that final shot of the movie.
Yeah, that's one of the theories about it. But there are some other things in the story in the movie that kind of dispel that the ghosts are actually there. So. Again, it's just one of those things that he threw in that's just never really going to get answered definitively. You can speculate on it as much as you want, but I don't know, man. It's again, I think, a lot of it just has to do with the duality of the character and everything like that. So, and because Danny's kind of got the same thing, Tony's kind of a mirror version of him, talking backwards, like doing the red rum thing later and all that. It's it's interesting, it's intriguing. I dig it, but yeah, this shot alone, we see another one like it later where he's in that, everything's kind of shot in that mirror. Looking at Jack while he looks at his family.
Yeah, exactamente. So we get all that like the month later. I think we get to friggin' a day that not a lot of people like, and that's the day called Tuesday. We get this, and now this is where it's storming like a motherfucker, snow everywhere. Which great job. Like the snow looks great. I was about to say snow, but snow looks great. And then Danny Boy finds room 237.
He does, man. And so and kind of right before that, there is just again another clue of this wedge. It's Wendy and Danny are going outside. This is what you were talking about earlier with the maze. So step back just a minute. Wendy and Danny are going outside. They're like, "Hey, Jack, come with us. Let's go have fun." He's like, "Nah, I got to write, man." And then like the next scene is him like procrastinating his writing. He's throwing that ball up on that wall, trying not because he doesn't care. Like he's procrastinating his work, but he doesn't want to be with his family. It's yet another clue.
What I heard is Jack Nicholson brought that particular quirk to the Jack Torrance character on his own.
Yeah, dude, and he did. He brought a lot of things to the character, and yeah, I think this is one of the things that he did. I think you're right. But so yeah, move it back up to the snow. Before it comes in, we see the news report saying it's going to be the biggest storm of all time, and there's a woman stranded somewhere, and already kind of building up that isolation some more. Danny goes riding on the trike again, like you said. He gets more drawn to 237, but he doesn't open it yet. He's just riding around. But again, it's adding suspense to these tricycle rides. He's riding around. He sees the room. He doesn't go into the room, looking past the wall, not seeing the wall, all that stuff. Two different things. But anyway, but yeah, it's building that suspense each and every time. And we also get that once it starts snowing though, that's when Wendy and Danny are outside and Jack's looking out the window. Or no, it comes up later after.
That's it. That's when we get that first incredible shot of Jack Torrance.
When he's like, when he's looking out the window watching them play, and he's like drooling in there, and he's like,
dude, it's just the score is what made that whole scene so damn disturbing, and we just kept getting a close up, a close up, a close up. Dude, that was very unsettling on this recent rewatch.
Dude, it is, man. He's off on his own world. He's doing his own thing. Wendy and Danny are on a completely different, path. They're completely separated. And Danny is just weird, man. Or I'm sorry, Jack is. This all kind of leads up to the scene where Jack is in there working. He's typing away. It's nighttime in the Colorado lounge. Nice spooky ambiance. It's nice and dark out there. It's creepy. He's in there in this big ass room typing by himself, and Wendy comes in to interrupt his ass. Actually, she's being really nice.
Yeah, and I messed up the whole staring thing that happened on Thursday. What we're about to talk about, it happened on Tuesday. So
I was thinking this might have came first.
That's my mess up. So,
but no, it's fine. It's because she does come in. Yeah, because this is when she comes in. She's like, "Yeah, we're getting a big snow tomorrow or whatever." Because this is before it snowed, and then he's like, "Well, what do you want me to do about it?"
If that's why he makes this rule.
Yeah, dude. He's like, "Dude, Wendy, if you hear me in here typing, and you come in here, you're breaking my concentration, and I can't fucking like it's." Dude, this is the first time where you really see him go off the rails. Like it, and again, this one had a lot of different takes apparently too. There's a lot of different takes in this where he was actually nicer here, but this is where he's completely off the rails and he wants absolutely nothing to do with his family anymore. And this is where he puts it out on the table. He makes that very clear in this sequence when he tells Wendy to fuck right off, even after she said, "Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting you. I'll come back and with some sandwiches for you, and maybe then you can tell me some of your story." And he's like, "No. This is the workroom. Get the fuck out."
Oh man, you could just read Shelley Duvall's face, just selling the hell out there. Like, okay, yeah, I think we get that. And I know why Jack Torrance was so angry. Yeah, why he was so angry during that time, because they keep on freaking replacing his typewriter model. Like that was one of the stories I read behind it. Is they kept on switching out the machine, so it definitely looked. It was a different model within certain parts of the movie.
Yes, and that would piss me off too, dude. You can't those things are probably a pain in the ass to learn. I can't attest to it, but I can say that if I did learn one, I don't want you changing it up. It ain't like no keyboard. But yeah, that's an eerie scene, man. That's really when you start to get this freaking, you're really kind of starting to put yourself in Wendy's shoes and be like, man, I'm stuck here with this guy that's really starting to go a little unhinged, and there's nowhere for me to go. It's snowing tomorrow. This guy, I mean, obviously, I'm in trouble if this gets any worse than it is right this moment. And yeah, because I mean, literally, she's stuck in there. It's a freaking cage match. It's a hell in a cell, rather. It's a hell in a cell because you can go outside still. You just can't leave that perimeter, if you will.
Good man.
But yeah, dude, it's creepy, and especially knowing later the twist you get from Jack's manuscript, where he's just writing the same sentence out, which we'll get to here in a little bit. It just makes the scene even creepier when you come in and seeing that he's all freaking like Jack, like that's what he's working on right now. This is a big thing, is typing that out, and he's that freaking over the edge about it, totally losing his mind, man. And you know, you mentioned earlier, and we'll see this happen again, but you know, I'll pick that up back up later. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, man.
No, you're okay, man. Yeah, and then we get to what we were describing earlier, like the whole Thursday with it's snowing heavy and Jack does the whole staring thing. And so we've already described about that. So let's freaking go into what's supposedly like one of our favorite days of the week. Is Saturday, man. Let's freaking check on what's going on Saturday. And Saturday is when Wendy's checking the whole communication system, you know, like just making sure to say, hey, everything's okay. Are you okay on your end? Because if we get in trouble, we're going to rely on you. We're going to depend on you. So you better be there. Fucking great job those guys did. And then yeah, it's just, again, like you've been saying, Brad, for a lot of this review, it's just creating that what we call the isolation, because you know that communication is about to go away here shortly. And then, of course, we get one of the most famous shots in the entire movie is freaking Danny finding the twins in the hallway.
And twins.
Yep. We get another scene of him riding around a third, fourth time in this movie. You don't know if anything's going to happen. You don't know. And if you hadn't seen it before, you don't know what's going to happen. You just figure he's just riding again. And then boom, we get this freaking, the score again. Epic score coming in. You see the twins stand in the hallway, and then like, hey, Danny, come play with us, man. We need some friends forever and ever. And then it cuts to them being all chopped up, you know, if like from their dad who freaking murked their asses. Like that was creepy. That was freaking, you know, that as far as visuals in this movie, scary, terrifying images. This takes the cake, man. It's fucked up. You don't see a lot of this with children, and yeah, dude, it's fucked up.
Come play with us, Danny. Forever and ever and ever and ever. Yeah, man. I didn't do it as creepy as those twins girls did it. So yeah, dude, it's very unsettling, that scene was. And then yeah, you do definitely one of the big highlight scenes in the entire movie.
Yeah, dude, they were murdered, man, and it was bloody. And it was especially like for 1980, man. There's not a lot of blood in movies back then. This movie took the cake. It held the record for most blood in a movie ever until Chapter 2 came out. That being the elevator scene. But
damn it, Pennywise.
But yeah, this yeah, this deserves it, man. But either way, yeah, man, it's a bloody scene. It's scary. It's terrifying images that people have probably never seen at that time. And yeah, and you just put yourself in Danny's shoes at that point too. And then the 237 thing kind of happens too. Well, that comes on a little bit later. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because we're gonna get into Monday, where Danny is pretty much wants to go get his fire truck, and then we get that very uncomfortable scene when freaking Jack was talking to Danny and all that, trying to get like information from Danny about Wendy. And dude, yeah, freaking again, just freaking the family is just, there's more cracks in there that's about to freaking be broken by an axe.
Yeah, and if you look at that scene too, kind of the same thing earlier. Again, it's shot in the mirror for the most of the movie, or most of that scene, reflecting back onto Jack. And Danny actually is looking into that reflection of the mirror when he's talking to Jack. Like he's not looking up at his face; he's looking in the mirror. Again, kind of seeing like, oh, maybe he can see the true Jack kind of deal or something like that. But either way, it's an interesting approach, and I like that. And Jack himself seems, I mean, he's vulnerable here. He's weird. He's very weird. It's a cool exchange, and just kind of makes you feel a little uneasy. He's like, oh, you know, I would never hurt you, Danny, and all that stuff. Like it's creepy, man.
Oh man, it's like, I love you, Danny. Like, I feel like that's the last time we actually see any kind of goodness in Jack at that time, because from here on out, the next day we're talking about, which is freaking Wednesday, dude. So much impact, and this is where like all hell's about to break loose in this movie, because we're finally at the part now, like in the middle act of this movie, where we needed to go somewhere. It goes places, man.
Yeah, dude. It's snowing like a mofo outside. Danny's playing with freaking Apollo shit, and there's this conspiracy about the Apollo thing. If you've seen the Room 237
Damn
documentary,
conspiracy. CON. Conspiracy.
Spiracy. You can see it there. I won't get into it here. I mean, you either know it or you don't. It's a cool story. It's a cool conspiracy, but just for time's sake, we'll leave it there. But anyway, Danny gets up. He's playing there with his toys and stuff. A tennis ball comes rolling in. He looks up. Nobody's there. He does notice the door to 237 is open, and 237's been built up so much at this point that it's almost a spine freaking tingling moment when he looks up and sees that's open, and he slowly approaches that door and he walks in there, dude. It's creepy, man. Makes your hair prick up a little bit.
Yeah, because again, we didn't actually see what happened in that room, as we're getting ready to explain here in a little bit. So yeah, we were all at that point do not go in that damn room. But it's a freaking kid. Of course he's going to go in that room because he thought his mom was in there. But speaking of Wendy, she hears an awful sound, and she looks, and Jack is just completely having a freaking horrible nightmare. And she wakes him up and all that, and he's like, yeah, I had a dream, the most awful dream. I killed you and Danny. And Wendy's like, okay, I'm going to get you freaking some ice for your head there, because that sounds like a fucked up drink that I don't want any a part of. And then that's when freaking Danny boy walks in, and he looks fucked up too. Like, what the hell happened to him? And then Wendy decides to make the assumption that Jack freaking put his hands on Danny and all that. It's like, you bastard. And then you see Jack Nicholson. This is hilarious to me, going, what the fuck did I do? But dude, it's all great, but it's also very disturbing too, because again, the score of this movie plays a factor into all of it.
Yeah, dude, he's like, what, me? But yeah, Danny comes in, he had the marks on his neck and stuff, and that's a reasonable accusation. And in a lot of ways, you can still make the case that maybe Jack did have something to do with it. It's just, maybe the story isn't as reliable as we're being told. I don't know. I don't know. I'd seem to think that it was the fact the lady in 237.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. Yeah, that was a creepy sequence. Again, pure psychological horror when he's dreaming about, because we don't see his dream of murdering his family. A lot of directors would have showed you that dream. They would have gone through the whole rigmarole. They would have been, oh yeah, I just chopped my wife's head off, and then he wakes up. No, we get his reaction to the dream in the real world. We don't see that. And to me, that, that puts images in your head about what he's doing. And again, like anything, it's scarier than anything they could have shown you. So I thought that was really effective. Yeah, and let's see.
Yeah, he got fan. Jack's had enough of Wendy's bullshit, and he decides to go into the gold room.
He does, dude, because he's like, at this point, I don't want to be blamed for anything anymore. I need to go just hang out by myself and get some peace and quiet and act like I'm going to drink some beer. He said he would give his soul for a beer at that point, and freaking A, man. He's sitting there at this bar. This room again already is beautiful. The gold ballroom. We got the tracking shot earlier when they walk through when they're getting the tour, and it's a magnificent set. It looks so good and big and spacious, and everything about it looks great. It's got this nice lit up bar on the side. No booze there or anything like that. He sits there, and he's sitting there like, oh yeah, what yada yada, and then he looks down, he looks up, and he said, what is it? He says that right there. He says,
slow night there.
Yeah, it looks slow tonight, isn't it? Yeah. And the camera turns, and now the bar is fully freaking stocked, dude. And there's a bartender.
Yeah, we freaking Jack Torrance sees freaking Lloyd there, which this is where I put the attention that the kid actor's name is Danny Lloyd, and he goes by Danny, and then they use his last name for another character. I thought that was pretty fun. Then they get all conversation and all that, and Jack is this is what I noticed too. You have Wendy say it happened 6 months ago, where he was since the Danny attack and all that. Jack was claiming it's been 3 years or something.
Yeah, he's obviously I can't remember exactly what Wendy said. But yeah, if you say 6 months, I buy it. That's what I'll go with. But yeah, it again, that's just another thing. His recollection of things is different. He's not on the same page as his family. And that's another thing that it says. And really, man, this caps off one of my favorite scene of this Jack Nicholson performance, man, is him talking to Lloyd, the bartender, getting those lemon drops with Lloyd in, all that stuff like that. You get a lot of
drinking some Jack Daniels.
He does, dude. He's like, man, pour me a glass. You give me a bottle. I'll just keep it coming, man. We're gonna rock and roll, and he does, and he he gets his glass poured, his whiskey poured by the ghost freaking Lloyd, the ghost whiskey. Everything there is ghostly, man. It's crazy, and he starts talking this epic monologue, talking about how this is his first drink in 5 months, and 5 miserable months on the wagon that he's about to end right here, and all that stuff. He talks about breaking Danny's arm, like you said, and all that stuff. One little ounce of pressure too much or whatever, freaking broke. He had the papers, like all that stuff, justifying how he broke his arm, not really taking ownership of that or anything like that. And again, he's already just seeming pissed off about his family. He seems like at this point that Danny's held him back. He makes some discouraging remarks about Wendy as well, implying that she's held him back and all this stuff. Every bit of failure in his life is because of his family, and he just kind of lets it all go in this one little bit of monologue.
Yeah, and I'm glad he ended all that as he did, because that's when Wendy starts coming into the room and giving them details of what happened to good old Danny, about there's this woman in room 237 that attacked him, and Jack, is just saying, "There's the fucking way." So freaking he goes check it out, and man, we finally get our first look inside what's in room 237, and at first it was all great, and then all hell breaks loose.
Oh, yeah, dude. Jack goes in there. He's pumped up. Again, he doesn't care about Wendy. He goes into the room. He creeps in the bathroom. There's a naked lady coming out of the bathtub, and he's like, you know what? I don't care about Wendy. Let's go ahead and make out with her, even though she's a ghost. Like, there's no reasonable explanation for why there's a naked woman in this bathtub right now, but I'm going to lean into it. It's Thirsty Thursday. We're having a good time here. So he does. He jumps in on that right in the bathroom. And again, mirrors. He looks in the mirror and he sees that this lady, after he started making out with her, has turned into this freaking deteriorated freaking hag, man. It's one of the most gross bits of makeup I've seen. And he just gets so freaking horrified by it. It's pretty wild.
Dude, it's so freaking wild. And during all this, too, I had this note that freaking Dick was kind of like seeing all this in his like shining mind. And, he's trying to get communications up there to check to see how that family was doing. And the one note I had up there, and I'm going to show a picture of it right now, what the hell was that kind of painting art above Dick?
Dude, he's living the life, man. He's got the best artwork you're ever gonna see, man.
That artwork was so like, that was like a WTF moment for me. Like, what the hell is all this?
Dick's living it big, man. He's living it big. He's got the best art you could buy. I once put I've filled my house up with it. It's the best, and it's really solid. But he's laying there in bed. He's watching the news. He's getting bad vibes. It's got that heartbeat part of the score that kicks in here, which they do pick up on in Dr. Sleep too, which is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
It just builds that tension. It's pretty nice. And then
then Jack reports back to Wendy about what he finds in room 237. What does he tell Wendy?
There's nothing there, dude. Danny must have done it himself. Meanwhile, Danny's like seizing, like he's completely off the rails at this point. He's not having a good time anymore. He's completely like a trance of himself. Really, Tony has taken over Danny at this point to kind of protect him, I feel like, and that's kind of what's going on there.
He's all broken up there, bitch. He can no longer play.
And this is what I like. Jack's sitting there after he goes to the room. He's arguing with Wendy in their room, and she wants to leave. Again, we've already seen that he's blamed all of his failures on her, and now again she's like, "Hey, we got to get out of here." And he's like, "No, dude, I am the freaking caretaker here. I'm not giving this up for you or Danny. Like, it's not, you guys aren't going to hold me back anymore." It's kind of, he gets so pissed off in this conversation. That's the snapping point. That's the point where there's no more good Jack left at this point. He completely turns away. He gets up, he storms out of the room that they're in. Like I said, Danny's in a trance. He storms out of the room. He looks like right at the camera, which is really scary. The look he looks at, he gives us as the audience is like, dude, this guy is fucking gone. It's a really terrifying moment, but he's actually kind of looking into Danny's room, and you can see like this anger behind his eyes as he looks in that room. He's like, dude, yeah, I'm killing this fucking dude. That moment is one of the scariest moments of Jack Torrance in the movies when he storms out.
Yeah, kind of like you said, like this is at the point now where he's completely gone.
Yeah, because he's like, dude, if we leave now, I'm going to be shoveling fucking snow. I'm going to be freaking washing cars and all this stuff. He's not doing the family thing anymore, man.
No, he's done with it. So what does he do in a situation like this? He goes right back into the golden room, and this is our introduction to Grady, who was the caretaker that Axe's twin daughters and his wife,
Yes,
supposedly.
but first he goes back to the bar. He comes into this room. We get a nice tracking shot of him walking across. The room is full of people now. It's like a full party. There's a full masquerade going on there. You can't hear anybody, though. Like, you hear the music playing. The music, again, the score, the music, what's the name? Dancing in the Pale Blue. No, that's the whatever. I can't remember the name of the track. But it's something about dancing, I think, or moons. I can't remember. But either way, the song, we could maybe find it and put it somewhere. I don't know. But either way, the music that's playing as he walks into this ballroom is just freaking creepy, man. And you can hear the music. You can't hear any of the hundreds of people that are in there because it's all kind of just like a manifestation. But this is a creepy scene when he goes to the bar and sees Lloyd again. And this time he brought his money with him. He's not temporarily light anymore. He's got some cash in his wallet, and he's like, man, I want some more bourbon. Let's party it up. For some reason, every time this gets me, whenever Lloyd's like, you know what, take the drink. Your money's no good here, Mr. Torrance. And Jack's like, okay, but he accepts it. To me, this is Jack like just accepting his fate with this hotel. He's like, I don't care. Even though this feels a little weird, I'm leaning with it. I'm leaning into it. And every time I see that, the way the presentation of the line from Lloyd is creepy. It's like Lloyd is like, he's got to lead Jack to the freaking water. Jack's going to have to drink it. But he's that manifestation of the hotel. Lloyd is that's taken him there, and at that point, he's got him sucked in. And then, like you said, Mr. Delbert Grady comes up and spills some freaking sauce on him, some avocado.
Yeah,
ranch,
but that's where you get the funny line that we do with our Good Will Hunting rating system. The thing you always say, sorry about that. It's like, not as good as you, sir. Like,
he's like, looks like you got a little bit on yourself there, my friend. He pats him on the back. As he wipes
puts
it
more
on
them,
yeah.
which that's freaking hilarious. We get
Juicy
this to freaking go to the bathroom now, which is very colorful, very red, which again, red is like the color of murder and all that. So that's kind of like what they were talking about. So a lot of symbolism in this bathroom scene.
It is, man. A lot of this scene is brilliant.
And more mirrors.
Again, more mirrors, more symmetrical shots, more, again, the color is crazy. You get the scene where Jack's like, you know what, Delbert, whatever. He said, weren't you once the caretaker here? He's like, well, I've always been here, Mr. Torrance. It's just weird and off-putting and eerie. He has no recollection of chopping up his family, at least at the beginning of this conversation. He's like, you were the caretaker here. You chopped up your family, didn't you? He's like, no, I don't have any recollection of that, sir. It's all that stuff going on. And then he kind of turns on a dime. And he's like, you know what? They were giving me issues, so I corrected them. And, they've been corrected. Now it's time for you to correct your family. But this whole thing, this whole conversation, this is him. This is Grady telling him that Dick's on the way. Dick's getting sent here to help via Danny in The Shining and all that stuff. He lets him know about that. He says,
let's know about Danny's talent of The Shining and all that. He doesn't say The Shining, but he just say your boy Danny is so talented that it's gonna hurt you if you're not gonna take care of the problem.
Yeah, he's got to get corrected, And he said, you know what, Mr. Torrance, you've always been the caretaker here. And it's just weird, dude. It's like, and especially when you see how it ends with the, here in a little bit, like it's just a weird moment of dialogue. And these guys, their demeanor in this bathroom, I noticed on the commentary, they mentioned this and I'm like, wow, that's true. There's no body language between the two of them. They're just standing there kind of bladed, looking at each other. The bodies aren't moving at all, but they're just looking at each other with their eyes. And it's really kind of a strange off-putting conversation that, again, Jack's just drawn in. He's bought in at this point, and Delbert's what puts him over the edge to freaking chop his family up.
Oh yeah,
it's a dreamlike. It's really dreamlike, honestly. This whole scene with the way the colors are and everything.
Oh yeah, dude, it's very unsettling. Which I know we've been saying that word a lot, because it is, man. This is what this movie does. But dude, are you ready to dive into the third act at 8 a.m. in the morning?
Absolutely. And you just said the time, the stamp that pops up is 8. Now we started, this is a point I saw again in some of these, one of these back, these, the behind the scenes kind of details of the movie. I can't remember where it came from, but I think it's probably everybody talks about this, but it started off earlier in the movie, like, oh, here's the interview. And then here's Monday, or here's like a month later. And here's the times are getting shorter and shorter. Like at one point it was like a month later, then it's like Monday. Now we're actually talking like times in the day, and now it's 8 p.m. or whatever, 8 a.m. It's
Yeah,
just giving you
88.
that the time frames are shrinking. It's building that isolation up. It's building that, that almost that claustrophobia in this up, that you feel here. It's tightening in on itself. And it's also, I feel like when you get more cabin fevered, you kind of lose sense of time. So you don't really know necessarily. Yeah. It's kind of just playing with that as for the audience, it's like in The Lighthouse when he's like, how long have we been on this rock? A month, 2 days, 3 weeks? Help me to recollect. At this point, the time is just so messed up for everybody that it's just it's changed its way of presenting that. And I thought that was interesting.
Oh, dude, that's a great concept I never actually thought about before. Because again, it's that descent into madness and how it can it just really just speed up time. Just pretty much at that point. So we're at 8 a.m. Dick's on the way. Good old Dick trying here to save the day and all that. And then Wendy goes looking for Jack. And what she finds, and you alluded to this, so I'm going to let you do the honors and freaking say what freaking Wendy finds, man. So what does Wendy find? Because she finally gets to read his work.
Yeah, dude. So she's already scared of Jack, or she's scared of somebody's in the hotel. Somebody else is in the hotel. So she grabs the bat from the room and she goes down to the Colorado Lounge to go see what's going on. She's trying to, like you said, trying to find Jack. She stumbles upon his work and this manuscript that he's been writing for months now at this point. And she looks at it, man. She's all like, oh, yeah. And we see her reaction. She's looking through the paper. She's terrified. She's like, what? This is stacked. It's like 400 pages. And she's looking through them and you see her reaction and she's like, fucking just what the fuck? And then it cuts to this manuscript where we can see it's the lines, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, just written over and over and over and over and over again, 400 pages worth, all different styles, all different formatting. Like he's taken the time to format it, but it's messy. And it's also just kind of showing that he's had this, the first few pages are kind of neat, and then it kind of loses its neatness as the manuscript goes, and it's all over the place, and it's more jarring, and it's more like he's more and more off the edge, and that's a terrifying sequence. Side note,
because again, the score builds it up too. Like the more she reads, the more the score intensifies, and then that's when freaking Jack comes into the room saying, "What do you think?"
And the dude is hung over as a mofo. Mind you, he's been in that ballroom all night, and this is the second night he's drank in 4 months, and he is not feeling good, dude. He is completely. He just woke up. He slept about 2 hours, from what we can tell here at this point, because he's a different man. Yeah, he comes out of that thing, man. What do you think, Wendy? And this sets up the scariest scene in the movie, I think.
Yeah, it's freaking scariest thing. It's like, so what do you think, Wendy? What do you think we should do? It's like, I think we need to get Danny to a doctor as fast as possible. And then Tex is like,
as fast as
yeah, I'll do. It's freaking
maybe.
Just
maybe we should take him to the doctor.
Yeah,
as
dude.
fast as possible.
Yes, yeah, dude. It's just freaking just berserk. It's super uncomfortable, but you can't help but to draw into this with how much of freaking Jack Nicholson is going off on this thing, and just that's when he backs her up to the stairs. She's climbing up the stairs, and that's where just don't hurt. Stay away from this. You didn't let me finish. Okay, you didn't let me finish. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. Dude, it's just freaking going off and all that. And that's when Wendy gets that one lucky shot with the bat. Hey, batter, swing! And Jack freaking falls down the stairs and gets knocked the fuck out.
He does, dude. Quite a fall, man. And yeah, that's that moment, man, leading up to that you put yourself in Wendy's shoes and you're stuck here. And this dude is completely over the edge at this point. And there's nowhere to go. Yeah, but yeah, she does whack him. He falls down the stairs. She drags his ass all the way down to the kitchen and puts him in the pantry. And he wakes up about that time, and she locks the door on the outside. Her and Danny are going to get out of here. He's like, you know what? Danny and we're leaving. We're out. You stay in there. You got food. We'll send somebody for your ass at some point, but we're done. And Jack's
every guy's dream.
Locked in the pantry with all the snacks you can bear. So yeah, he's in there, dude, and he's like, yeah, Wendy. The amazing shot looking up at Jack as he's knocking on the door.
Dude.
By the way,
it's the first of its time, from what I understood. That kind of particular shot has never happened before. And yeah, and all stage Kubrick was doing is freaking on his back, just doing that. It's just simple camera work that's super effective.
Easy peasy, man. And Jack's like, yeah, you know what? You're in for one big surprise, Wendy. You're going nowhere. You're in here for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of pain. But no, implying that he, in fact, destroyed the damn snowcat, which he goes out and finds and discovers that is, in fact, true. Again, she is stuck there. There's no way to get out. There's no communication to call for help. She is there on her own with Danny, and she has nowhere to go. And, it's pretty wild. She goes to bed. She's sleeping it off. She's trying to figure it out. Danny's still in the freaking trance. He's still doing all kinds of weird shit. That's when we get the point where Danny's trying to be talked to by Wendy, and she's all like, we're gonna get out of here, it's all gonna be fine. And then he's like, Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance, and all that stuff. Dude, at that point, again, like, Tony's taken over, creepy as shit. The voice that Danny Lloyd brings us at that point is terrifying. It's super creepy. And then, once Wendy falls asleep, Danny writes the red rum on the door, which
this
we
is
go
where
out to
it
find.
gets to 4 p.m. The last chapter of this movie is called 4 p.m.
Yeah, and the rest of it's just chaos.
Yes.
We see some scenes of Dick kind of, he's taking flights, he's getting cars. He sees our boy from Rocky IV, Duke Evers, provide him he gives him the snowcat to get up to. All that stuff's going on. Meanwhile, like I said, Danny's writing the red rum on the door. Wendy's asleep. She wakes up and she sees red rum, but she sees it in the mirror. Again, mirrors being a big part of this story. It's now saying murder. And it's all that kind of, what's going to happen here, man? Stakes are being raised right here, right now. Shit's going to hit the fan tonight, baby.
Yeah, tonight, and then as that's going on, Jack gets waken up by Grady, and he's like pretty much in a nutshell. He's like, "I'm giving you one more chance. Like, we don't have any confidence in you." And Jack's like, "No, give me one more chance. I'll solve the problem." And then he goes, "Okay," and then he opens the pantry for Jack, and then as Wendy is discovering red rum, we hear a big old smash at the door. Is freaking Jack Torrance with this big ass axe. Which, if y'all didn't know, Jack Nicholson volunteered as a fire chief. So he knows how to freaking use an axe, man, and that's what's freaking scary about this. And I'll get more to the second door, but that's when Wendy and Danny lock themselves into the bathroom, and she's trying to get Danny out of there while she has to deal with her husband Jack, who's completely bonkers at this point.
He is, man. He's off the rails. And dude, when he comes again, they gave him a real door to go through. They took the prop door out. They said, you know what, you get a real door because you used to be a fire freaking fighter. And so it has that feel about it, that it is a real door. And the camera, the way it falls, the head of that axe every time it swings, I think is freaking epic, man. I tried to do the same thing when you got your ass beat by kid Michael in the skit for the Rob Zombie thing. I thought it worked out decent, but it wasn't as good as it is here, man. This shit's good. It brings that intensity. It makes us freaking feel intense as we're watching the scene, man, because they got the door locked. That's their only freaking separation from this madman. And there's another door. There's one more just like it and going into the bathroom. But he busts through that damn shit, no problem.
And that's when Jack freaking knocks on and goes, little pig, let me in. And I'm going to huff and all that. And then that's when he starts freaking busting down the door with the axe. And, of course, Shelley Duvall selling the hell out of it, which is freaking amazing how much she sells it. And then once Jack gets a little hole, he pokes his hole in there. And, Brad, this is your movie, so I'll let you say the line.
Here's Johnny. That's what he says as he pops through there, dude.
So damn
and that
good,
was
the most memorable line in the movie.
That was improvised by Jack Nicholson as well. One of the biggest lines in all of horror. He comes in and just makes it up. Johnny Carson is where he got it from. But yeah, dude, a lot of people say Wendy's overacting in there. I say, fuck that. No, dude, this dude's chopping down the damn door. You got nothing. There's nowhere to go. The window's covered with snow. You were able to get Danny out. He took a slide. Effective, too, seeing how much freaking snow's out there. That was cool. Wendy couldn't fit through there. Jack's there. There's nowhere for her to turn. There's nowhere for her to go. The doors are going to hold for so long. And, that's it. It's like in, it's just not going to, it's like in Star Wars when they're trying to get through the blast door. It's like, it's not going to last, you just got to do something. At one point, you guys, but he does, she slices his hand. He's had, at this point, he's got a head injury from falling down the stairs. He twisted his ankle at that point too. He's got a sprained ankle and now he's got a sliced hand. He's taking a toll, but he doesn't give a damn. But about the time that he gets through that door and it's about to go down, none other than Dick himself shows up on the snowcat. He's saying, hello. And Jack's like, you know what? I just heard somebody here. That's not a good sign. Dick has made it back. And then Dick comes into this hotel, dude, and it's these freaking creepy scenes, man, of him walking through this dark ass hotel. Nothing's happening. We see Jack kind of like And we, he's kind of walks away out of the bedroom where Wendy's at, and then he cuts to Dick, and he's walking down this eerie hallway, man. And it's just freaking like, oh, what's gonna happen? We don't know. In the story, in the novel, Dick comes back. He kind of saves the day. He gets his ass beat a little bit, but nothing really bad happens to him that bad. But now
Not in
he's
this
walking down this
movie.
hallway. Oh, I know, dude. And even on rewatch, even when we know what's about to happen, that anticipation builds because there's no music playing. He's just walking down this corridor and he's walking past all these pillars. And it's like, dude, what's going on with these pillars, man? Is something going to happen? And he gets to the last one and freaking Jack comes out screaming at his ass, chops the axe right in his freaking chest, dude.
Yeah,
Right there.
freaking Jack, freaking chopping off Dick. Like that's the best way I can explain it. And that's when freaking we had that last bit of shining connection between Dick and Danny, because Danny has a freaking major like freak out. And I would say at this point, that's when like Danny actually woke up from Tony. So it's no longer Tony, it's Danny, and Danny freaking runs away from Jack and all that. And that's where we get the amazing shots of the maze and Danny pulling up one of the biggest heists of the century.
He stole it, man. He stole it. Danny. This is the scene though where Jack's running. He's got the act, Danny, and he's like limping and shit, which we see again in Dr. Sleep. We'll get to that. It's freaking awesome. It's epic. He's chasing them outside. It's snowing. Danny runs into that maze, but Danny knows the maze because he's been there before. Jack, on the other hand, does not. And they said the maze has been built up as pretty intricate earlier in the movie, so it's easy to get lost and turned around and not be able to get out. Danny follows him in there. It's snowing, of course. There's snow prints and shit on the ground. Danny's like, nah, dude, I'm going to back up on my same footprints and hide in a different place of this maze. So Jack gets confused once the footprints end, and that's exactly what he does. Meanwhile, Wendy's running all over the hotel looking for Danny, but she's way off because his ass is outside. She's in there seeing all kinds of weird shit happen. And, all these manifestations of the hotel. There's, blood pouring out the elevator like we saw earlier. There's freaking BJs happening with bears, the BJ Bears, where that's where it gets the name right here. All kinds of crazy stuff's going on here, man. Yeah, it was.
Oh my gosh, it was so rough. And then we see the original caretakers, because the caretaker, did he not take like a shotgun to his head?
He did, yeah. Yeah, but he's there. He's like, oh, great party, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. So all that, and then that's when Wendy kind of hears Danny outside, and so she goes out there, and Danny and Wendy take off and dig some snowmobile and all that. And they freaking get out there, and of course, what happens to our boy Jack?
That mofo ended up getting lost in a damn maze, and he ended up freezing out the next day. That's how it ends essentially. And then like he's sitting there, he's frozen up. He's all frozen up. He can no longer move. He can't do that anymore. He's stuck in this damn maze in a cold ass day. All he had was a light jacket and a bunch of injuries. He could never make it out of that. We can expect him to. But the movie ends interestingly, which, by the way, I like the idea of this maze. The maze was not in the novel, but the maze itself really represents this movie. This movie, in a lot of ways, is a maze. It's a cinematic maze. Like people are still trying to figure out what everything means and stuff like that. The hotel itself was presented as a maze in this movie. There's windows that shouldn't exist when you really pay attention. There's doors that shouldn't exist when you pay attention, when you're seeing all this stuff play out. So that's interesting. And I like the way the maze kind of capped it off at the end. It had a big part in the end of the story, because in the book, the hotel burns down. Because Jack,
Yeah, and then of course we get the last picture of like Jack in what was the year? 1921, where we see Jack actually at the party, like at the very front and all that. And we keep getting to zoom in onto his picture, and then and that's freaking The Shining.
Yeah, dude. Jack's always been the caretaker here, man. And that's what it goes into at that point. It's, he became a part of the hotel. There was a deleted scene or an alternate ending. Actually, I just learned this. I never knew this until the other day. But there was another ending where it follows up. Mr. Ullman, Stuart Ullman, shows up at the hospital the next day, meets Wendy and Danny there. And he tells them that Jack's body was never found, which you can speculate, what the ending means with this picture at the end. I think, maybe with this alternate ending, although it's not canon, it still kind of shows what Kubrick's vision was, and that's maybe that he kind of dissipated from this world and entered the world of the hotel. And he's obviously, once he's there, time is not a thing. He's always been there.
Yeah, dude, and that's actually because I never really like understood the picture, but I part of me still doesn't understand it. But yeah, that's the
No,
best
nobody knows for
explanation I
sure.
ever got of it. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
there's a
and
lot of
I
different.
love how
Yeah,
movies end on the big question mark, and it's like, what, what? But yeah, at the end of the day, though, that is the classic, The Shining.
yeah, dude. Oh, freaking epic, man. I mean, again, dude, it's just one you appreciate more and more every time you watch it.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And I know we've been here for a while, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up into a nice little ball. So, Brad, what are your overall thoughts about The Shining and a movie rating?
Like I said, yeah, it's one that I watched again. I watch it every year, every October. This and Halloween are my two that I have to watch. Watched it again, appreciate it even more this time. Right now, it's probably my favorite horror movie. If you ask me right now, again, it could change. These two back here go back and forth. Um, to me, it's it's a masterpiece. It's one of the best. Not, it's really not just. It's not just one of the best horror movies ever. It's one of the best movies ever, in my opinion. It's in my top
Mm.
5, 100%, no question. That's where it belongs. And yeah, it's just one that it's been studied, it's been examined. You still don't know all the answers. A lot of fascinations here with it, man. I'm giving it a 5 for sure. If I could give it a 10, I would.
Oh, dude, freaking badass, man. But yeah, The Shining for me, I think it's an all-time horror classic. Like, if you're gonna like get a horror fan into it, and you guys show them all the top movies of all time, The Shining is right up there, being one of the top ones you show first to your horror friend in training. Jack Nicholson was astounding. Shelley Duvall, outstanding as their roles in this movie. If you can ask Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall, this is the most challenging film they've ever done in their entire careers. So you got to give them major props for that. Absolutely love this movie. It's my favorite character development into the Descent of Madness from Jack Torrance. I love that performance more than anything that the horror genre has to offer. So to me, this movie is perfect. So I'm going to join with you, Brad. It is a golden reel 5 out of 5.
Hit me with that golden reel in the golden ballroom, my friend.
I love gold. The look of it, the taste of it, the smell of it, the texture.
But yeah, dude, that is the freaking Shining. So, Brad, is there anything else you want to say about The Shining before we officially close out?
That's it, man. I could go on and on. We're gonna talk. We've done a show on this before. We'll do another one in the future. I'm sure we'll do a watch party. We'll do it some more. But for now, I'm done. I'm fiending. I'm capped off. We have gone too long.
We have gone too too far along, but we appreciate you tuning, like just watching us for the entire time. We love and appreciate you guys. It's just as much as we love The Shining. So we're gonna go ahead and ask you guys, what do you all think about the classic The Shining from Stanley Kubrick from 1980? Do you think it's a golden reel, a 5 out of 5, a perfect horror movie? Or do you have some problems with this movie that doesn't make it as perfect as it is? Let us know in that comment section down below, and let's get that discussion rolling.
And if you want to help us find the good reels, you can do so by finding us on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Twitter, TikTok, and of course Patreon. Those links are right down below for you to find. Just don't get lost.
Yeah, please don't get lost. And also be sure to like this video, share, and subscribe, because again, we're on that quest of 1K subscribers. And once we hit 1K subscribers, we're freaking go for so much more bigger of a party than the Gold Room with freaking Jack Torrance. So help us get us there. And of course, you can ring that bell, ding, 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 so you all know when the next movie review is up and ready. And I'll let you know right now, it is going to be Dr. Sleep.
Yes, it is. We're not gonna finish it right here, right now. We're gonna continue this journey, man. We're gonna see what Danny's doing next.
Yeah, so we're gonna freaking get on out here, and man, I'm gonna need me a drink after this review.
Yeah, dude. Make it a double. Slow night, Lloyd.